Welcome to Carrow Road, where Norwich have won a third game on the spin. They're up to fifth in the championship table, and they're only a point off second place. But things aren't quite as smooth as that, unfortunately. It was only a 2-1 win over Wycombe today, who arrived here without a win yet since their first promotion to the championship for the first time they've ever been promoted to the second tier of English football. So they turned up here absolutely desperate for that first point. And they worked really, really hard. And although the stats that I'll give you in just a minute will show that Norwich were actually technically more dominant than they were against Birmingham here on Tuesday, when we were all really positive about how well they played, and we're talking about how they hadn't quite taken the chances that they should have done. But this didn't feel like as much of a dominant performance. It felt much more similar to the Rotherham game on Saturday, who had been much more ambitious than Birmingham had been here on Tuesday night, and Wycombe gave it a good go. They gave Norwich a good scare, and had the referee maybe given a couple of calls their way, then this might have been a very different story in the end. But I think as much as anything, Norwich and Daniel Farke and the players leave here just relieved that they got away with it, really. And they didn't deserve to lose the game, but whether they did enough to win it is pretty debatable. As you can see, the wind has really picked up here, so we've got a new mic here. I'm hoping that will deal with the wind okay, but it's really whipping around the stadium at the moment, so I hope you can hear me fine. But it's Mario Vrancic again. Let's focus on the positive to start with. The hero for the second game in a row. He does like his late drama. Doing the live updates at PinkUn.com as ever, and Mario wins a free kick in the first minute of injury time after coming on in the 68th minute, and it looked quite close. It was literally on the edge of the box, and I put in the updates that Chris Gorham will be warming up his vocal cords here, because there was that opportunity looming again, and could he be the free kick hero like he was at the River End that time famously against Sheffield Wednesday? This time it was in front of the Barclay again, no fans unfortunately, but it was a superb free kick. And just talking to Mario after the game, he described how he knew he was quite close and how he needed to take a little bit of power off it. There wasn't really much room to curl it around the wall, and Wycombe made it a big wall as well. They really tried to fill that goal, and he managed to find the top corner and just stroked it, really took the pace off it, dipped it over the wall, and it was a lovely, lovely goal and a big moment for him. And the Wycombe commentators were sat behind us, and it was actually Bill Turnbull from BBC Breakfast and Strictly and those kinds of things. He was doing the local commentary, and they were absolutely gutted from at the start of the game, from saying things like "this is men against boys" when Norwich were absolutely dominant, to I think he said at the full-time whistle, "we were robbed." So, but after Vrancic had come on, within about 5 minutes, whoever his co-commentator was saying, "Why has Vrancic not started this game for Norwich? They've been so much better since he got on the pitch, and he started to pull the strings." And okay, maybe Wycombe had tired a little bit by that point, but they played a 4-3-3, and that pretty much meant the game bypassed Rupp and Skip as the central midfield pairing quite a lot of the time. They were getting it down the wings, and Aarons and Kintyre were having quite a hard time trying to contain Kashket and Onyia Dimna on either side, who both had a fair bit of pace. So that perhaps a tweak in formation could have made this a bit more comfortable, but that's easy in hindsight, of course, isn't it? But the stats: Norwich had 76% of possession, 25 shots to Wycombe's 8, and 6 on target to Wycombe's 2. So, if you look at that, then that tells the story of a dominant game and Norwich finally getting the winner that they deserved, like they did on Tuesday. But this was not like that at all. The opening goal came in just the 3rd minute, a defence splitting pass, just as you would expect from Mario Vrancic. Plays Teemu Pukki clean through, and second goal of the season for Teemu showed a really cool, calm head. As when he's at the top of his game, he's so good at, dinks it past the keeper, just draws the defender and the keeper out to him, and a nice finish. And once that had gone in, you thought, well, here we go. This could be a big score. Wycombe turned up here with 6 successive defeats. They'd only scored 1 since promotion. They conceded 13, but it just didn't materialise. Norwich, I don't know whether they just thought, right, that's it, we've got this 1-1, and they were utterly dominant in that first 10-15 minutes, and were just pulling Wycombe all over the place. Wycombe didn't have the technical ability. That was very clear. as soon as they got the ball, they were just pumping it long and trying to force Norwich into mistakes and trying to win second balls. And it was, sort of agricultural style, but with a lot of energy and a lot of hard work in there as well. But the goal came, it was just a strange one, really. And Daniel Farke has just described it afterwards as a misunderstanding. And basically, Joe Jacobson, their captain at left back, who is a real set piece expert, got real good left foot on him, just pumped a sort of hopeful long ball forward, and it's headed towards goal. And Grant Hanley and Ben Gibson and Tim Krul all just sort of, I guess, leave it to each other, really. I get Hanley's probably just about the person who's to blame for it, but he thinks the ball's probably going to roll through to Krul. It doesn't. Scott Cashgate nips in and then finishes into the net, and it's all just sort of the Norwich players are looking at each other like, well, how the hell have we managed that, to be perfectly honest? But there was no panic. You presumed that they would just continue playing the way that they had started the game, and it would be fine. But they didn't. They just went into their shells and sort of almost panicked a little bit. And in the end, it was Wycombe who kind of got on top before half time. And Ben Gibson in particular was, well, he probably skating on thin ice within 16 minutes. And shortly after the goal, he brought down Cashgate out wide and got a yellow card, which was probably fair enough. And then a minute later, he pulled down Adeniran in the box, and I'd say probably, well, it could easily have been given as a penalty. They were both sort of falling, and Gibson makes sure that he can't get away from him. A hand very clearly on his shoulder, and the referee doesn't even give a foul. And if he gives the penalty, then you'd think it's probably likely he gets that second yellow within 16 minutes. So that was a real scare. From then it was scrappy. The closest Norwich really came was a Jordan Hugel header, which he couldn't really get behind, and that was from a Kintyre corner. He'd won it cleanly, but just put it wide. Wycombe had a couple of chances. Stewart headed one over. Cashgate put one into the side netting, and when we got to half time, although Wycombe then really killed the game for the last sort of 5 minutes, and Daniel Farke was getting very frustrated with the time wasting because they knew how important it was to get into the dressing room on level terms. Norwich just could not find their rhythm again, and you have to give the opposition credit for that, for the way that they kept working hard and for disrupting Norwich and for not letting them find that rhythm again. But to be fair to Norwich, they did improve in the second half. Certainly, I would have said after Adam Eder, he came on for Hugel in the 58th minute. I'd say they definitely improved from that point onwards. And then once Vrancic was in the mix 10 minutes later, then they really did start to control things. There were chances, but Wycombe did have one sort of cleared off the line early in the second half. That was Grant Hanley from a Jacobson corner, which had sort of curled all the way around Krul. Then Rupp had one deflected over. The goalkeeper also made good saves from Eder and Campwell. And then the latter stages, it was just desperate finishing from Norwich. That stat count of 25 shots and 6 on target was probably cranked up in that closing stages when they were just shooting at every opportunity, and just constantly there was a Wycombe player making a block or deflecting it wide or over, and it just became really chaotic, and until Vrancic comes up with that bit of quality to bail Norwich out. So, let's look at this glass half full, and as I say, they're up to 5th. Watford and Bournemouth drew early in the day, which is a good result. Reading won again and flying high at the top of the table, which no one really saw coming. Brentford, where Norwich, of course, go on Tuesday, they lost 3-2 at Stoke today. Bristol City, where Norwich go on Saturday, really tough week coming up. They're still second, despite I think they drew 1-1 with Swansea, if I remember that correctly. So if we look at this glass half full, Norwich are in that position. They still certainly haven't played as well as they're capable of, not in terms of a full 90 minutes performance. That we saw a lot of hints of the good play that you want to see from them on Tuesday against Birmingham, but they didn't convert that into the goals that it should have been. And then today it became a bit of a mess, but they managed to get over the line thanks to their quality. So I think we can still hope that there's good things to come, but at the moment, my mind's drifting a bit back towards the Alex Neil season after they've been relegated in 2016, and they were top of the table and they were beating teams reasonably comfortably, but things didn't feel quite right, and we saw that season slowly disintegrate. So I'm not saying that's going to happen with this season. We'll see where this goes, but at the moment, it's not quite right, is it? There are some encouraging signs, but there are some worrying signs. It's still so early. They've got 13 points after 7 games. Would most Norwich fans have taken that if it was offered at the start of the season. Maybe not most, but I think quite a few would have, because that would mean that you're up and running, aren't you? In the early stages, you haven't made a bad start to the season. You've got some points on the board, and as I said in my column in the PinkUn this morning, that they're already 5 points ahead of what Farke's team had in 2018-19, and they went on to win the title. So they're already 5 points better off than that team. They were ahead of today. They were on par with the Norwich title winners of 2004 and the promoted team under Lambert in 2011. So they clearly are capable of going on from here and having a great season. And if things can click together and they can bring together some 90-minute performances and build on this momentum of 3 wins on the spin, hard-fought wins on the spin as it proved to be, then of course it could be another special, exciting season, weird season, with these empty seats behind us, as they were during the game, sadly, and we won't keep going over that every week. But at the end of the day, they've got the 3 points. There was another exciting late goal from Mario Vrancic, who now is, he was asked about the fact that he's not starting games, and he didn't say a great deal. He just sort of said, well, what can I do? I'm doing as much as I can to try and start. I think Daniel Farke is probably going to have a difficult time leaving him out. Skip and Rupp today, as good as Rupp was on Tuesday against Birmingham, as I said a bit earlier, they were both a bit not anonymous today, but it just seemed to pass them by, and they weren't able to put their stamp on things and control things. So if either of them were to drop out, then I don't think you'd be too surprised. Given the intensity of the games, I would have probably said that would be Skip, given that he's a young man learning his game. This is his first loan spell, isn't it? And Rupp does have that experience, and him and Vrancic know each other very well because they played together for Paderborn in the Bundesliga in 2014-15, I think it was. It was a relegation season, but they know each other well. So I wouldn't be too surprised against a team like Brentford as well, who are going to try and play football like Norwich, and who are in a similar place where they've sold some of their best players, and then it's not quite happening for them. Like I say, I think they were 10th at the table I just looked at. It's not quite happening for them at the moment. Of course, they're trying to shake off the playoff final hangover, which, just like being relegated from the Premier League, is never easy that following season, is it? So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Vrancic and Rupp starting that game, or maybe even another one, a Teti or a McLean coming in on Tuesday. Maybe just freshening up a little bit. As I say, it could be one of the toughest weeks of the season, away to Brentford, away to Bristol City. But there we go. That'll do for today's verdict. Thank you very much for watching, as ever. I hope you're enjoying the live element of this that allows us to get the videos out that little bit quicker onto the different platforms as well, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And if you've got any comments, then let us know in the comments below on Facebook or YouTube. But for now, Norwich win 2-1. Mario Vrancic, the hero. It's on to Brentford on Tuesday. Thanks very much for watching.